Hello everyone, welcome to Laexcellence IAS Academy. Recently, RBI announced that it's going to buy back G securities from the market and going to inject 1 lakh crore rupees into the Indian economy. So, in this context, we will discuss what is open market operation and also we will discuss what are the G securities and how is RBI going to conduct open market operation and how it's going to inject liquidity into the Indian banking system. Okay, let us start. Open market operation. Open market operation is nothing but a process. It is a process is conducted by the RBI. It is either sell the G securities in the Indian market or it's buy back the Indian securities. So whenever it sells the G security in the Indian market, it tries to suck the liquidity out of the Indian market. Whenever it tries to buy back the G securities from the Indian market, it's going to inject liquidity into the Indian market or Indian banking system. But we will discuss further, we will discuss what are the G securities in particular. Okay. G securities nothing but government securities. Means government issues some securities to the Indian market and it's can borrow from the Indian economy to meet its demands, especially fiscal deficit. Okay, Indian government issues two kind of securities. One is treasury bills, called T bills. Another one is dated securities. Dated securities. T bills are short-term bills, and treasury bills. These are issued within up to 364 days. Up to 364 up between or below 1 year. Because of this short terms, these are called treasury bills. Dated securities are long-term securities issued by the Indian government more than 1 year, but up to 40 years. This is the long-term security issued by the Indian government into the Indian economy. Dated securities will for long-term borrowing, which dated securities are issued for the long-term borrowing for the Indian government. T bills are short-term borrowing. You can see that. So, whenever the G security issued by the government, RBI sells them the G securities into the banks, commercial banks, or any private entities, and also retail individuals can also buy the G securities in the Indian market. Because of this, what happens? RBI sells these G securities issued by the government of India in the market. So it suck liquidity back. Hence, RBI what happens? RBI will suck the liquidity out of the Indian economy, especially banks, private entities and retails. So this is acts government is borrowing. You can note here that government is borrowing money from the market, right? So there is no funds left in the Indian banking system or any individuals in the Indian market. So there will be no lending or less lending in the Indian market. So private individuals, retail also are buying G securities in the Indian market. They have no left money in their hand. This will create a situation called crowding out. Means private entities are not able to raise the money from the Indian market. Why? All the money in the Indian market are now borrowed from the government to meet its fiscal deficit, right? Fiscal deficits. So because of this, there is a crowding out effect in the Indian market, and there is a rise in the interest rate. Rise in the interest rates in the Indian economy. Hence, there will be no inflation in the Indian economy. No inflation in the Indian economy. Hope you are understanding the concept here. Okay, this is the first part of the G security. Here, RBI is selling the G securities in the Indian market. Okay, when RBI tries to buy back the G securities already sold in the market. Okay, this is now RBI trying to do now. RBI is trying to sell 1 lakh and means buying back worth of 1 lakh crore rupees in the Indian market. Means RBI trying to inject 1 crore rupees liquidity into the Indian market, especially Indian banks. So in this case, what happens? RBI is buying back G securities, right? G securities means injecting liquidity into the Indian market. So banks now have enough funds to lend in the Indian market, right? So RBI in this case, what happened? There will be a lesser interest rate. Interest rate will be very less compared to in this situation. Now RBI recently what happened? RBI recently reduced the repo rate, and the interest rate will be less, and RBI trying to inject the liquidity in the Indian market. We already discussed how RBI is conducting currency swap to inject liquidity into the Indian market, right? So again, RBI is trying to buy back the Indian G securities, government G securities, and again injecting liquidity into the Indian banking system. So in this condition, what happens? Banks will lend more money in the Indian economy. So investors will not face any crowding out effect in this particular issue, and there will be enough money for the banks to lend to the consumers, especially private entities who want to invest in infrastructure and development activities, and also households who want to have loans with respect to car loans, house loans. There will be enough lending happening in the economy, and there will be a more demand. Whenever the lending happens, there will be a more demand, because why? There is enough liquidity in the Indian economy. There is more money in the hands of the people, and more money is chasing fewer goods. You are understanding, right? When there is a more money, there are fewer goods, and the more money is chasing fewer goods, and there will be a inflation in the economy. Hope you are understanding, right? So these conditions happens will whenever the RBI buy back the G securities in the Indian market. Now RBI is trying to RBI trying to inject 1 lakh crore rupees into the Indian market, trying to increase the possibility of the growth in the Indian economy. So thank you for watching the video.